As we reflect and discuss today, it's important to take note how we're not only looking backwards, but it's about learning how to move forward. Part of that is through conversation. So I want to introduce you to a couple of rabbis in our city here to weigh in. Let's welcome Rabbi Micah Greenstein from Temple of Israel, welcome as usual, and Rabbi A.B. Schacter-Gampel. How was that? Director for the Center of Jewish Life and Learning at Memphis Jewish Community Center. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me just start by saying this. There has to be a lesson to learn from this event that applies to our Memphis community, right? Mm-hmm. Okay? In the midst of hardship, someone's always doing good, right? So what would you say that is, that good that's happening? Either one. Don't jump in.
Well, I just want to take a step back first.
Okay, let's
and then take a step forward, as you were saying in your introduction. I think when we should place the Holocaust and what happened on a pedestal in terms of what had happened and the atrocities that happened. And I think we talk about, we had mentioned earlier before, the idea of never again. And I think the challenge of the memory of the Holocaust, or the challenge of thinking about how we think about it now in 2023 is it's a contradiction of sorts. One is that the Holocaust was such a terrible atrocity. I mean, it cannot be compared.
I don't think so either, no.
And at the same time, if it's unique in its not being able to be compared, then what lessons can we actually draw from it? And I think that's the tension that I always deal with, or I sit with on days like this or on commemorations like this. We want to look back in order to look forward.
Correct.
But we also know in that moment of looking back at the Holocaust, we know that in some ways we can never compare.
No, I don't think we can.
But all that being said, I do think that there is something that we can learn from the goodness of, or maybe of certain actors. Was there a particular angle that you wanted to take that in?
Just whatever you want to share.
Well said, Rabbi A.B. I think a lesson tying what you both said together is that any society not conscious of its past has no assurance of its future.
Absolutely.
And it's no accident, for instance, that survivors, Jews, by the way, are only 2% of the American population. Yet 60% of the hate crimes in America are directed towards Jews. Jews were a very small percentage at the end of World War II in 1945, yet 50% of the freedom riders in Mississippi were Jewish. And who spoke before Martin Luther King at the Lincoln Memorial? The I Have a Dream speech? Most people don't know this because everyone remembers it was a Holocaust refugee, a survivor, Rabbi Joachim Prinz.
I didn't know that, yeah.
Right, and so it's no accident because those who survived the horror of horrors, as Rabbi said, the incomparable, came back to America and witnessed this discrimination against people of color. And so I think there are many examples, there are many unsung heroes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can't, I mean, it's not like we can put everybody into one small category because I think everyone played a role in that, you know?
I mean, I think part of what y'all have so graciously invited me into this space is part of that is a story about my own family.
Right.
And so my grandfather, Rabbi Herschel Schacter, wasn't a survivor, but he was a liberator. He was a chaplain in the American Army, and he helped liberate the canton, or the camp of Buchenwald. And he, at the age of 27 years old, was with the American Army as they were moving forward and gaining ground, and he went into Buchenwald, into the camp, and he, in his Army uniform, ran through the camp and screamed out to the survivors that were there in Yiddish, because that was the language that they spoke. Jiden, ihr seid frei. Jews, you are free. And how could this be that there's a man, this young-looking man who's 27 years old, who's speaking in Yiddish, but he's wearing an army uniform, and how is this possible? And so I think of that story in terms of the actions, the kind of the heroics that he did. And I think about that as really a jumping off point for his whole life. That it didn't stop then. He continued to fight for Judaism and fight for all folks throughout his life. And so I think he saw that as a seminal moment in his life, as a calling of, hey, something happened here. I want to make sure that throughout my life, I continue to respond to Jews and to all those who are in need.
Yeah. So what would you say is the value of building up interfaith within the community of that?
This is International Holocaust Remembrance Day we're commemorating, and I have to confess how appreciative I know, Rabbi Abi, I am that you're doing this, because you're the only one here who's not a rabbi. And while we'll adopt you,
Not yet.
Not yet, Rabbi.
Not yet.
And while you're not Jewish, you may be honorary. No, in all seriousness, this may seem like a strange analogy, but rape and violence against women is not a woman's problem, it's a man's problem. Racism directed against people of color isn't a black problem, it's a white problem. I feel uneasy sometimes when Jews own the Holocaust because it has nothing to do with Judaism. Jews were victims. So when people who are not Jewish raise up this issue that silence is compliance, that's the only way this is going to end. Anti-Semitism isn't going to end with Jews owning it, it's going to end with others. So that's the two issues. His grandfather, the hero, thank God, all these unsung heroes, and those who are not Jewish saying enough.
Right.
That's my feeling with I was thinking, like, why is there an international Holocaust Day? That's the only way it'll end.
Right. And
do you agree?
And I think that goes back to this point of it. We can't keep it relegated in the past, that it only happened in the past, and that it's incomparable. Of course, it
will always be up there,
but
in that level.
As long as we continue to say, hey, there's an International Remembrance Day, and it's our job, it's your job, it's my job, it's
to share.
Your job there as well, to think about this. That's how we can make sure that we're aware of this, that we're fighting against this, in whatever kind of shape or form or ideas that it's taking.
But it takes conversations like this to just bring it forth,
Sure.
just so people can kind of unpack it in their minds, or even reach out to someone who can help them understand. Yeah, you know?
It has to be interfaith. There has to be allyship to end this madness of hate.
It has to be, absolutely. Bluff City Life continues when we return. We'll see you guys in a minute. We're going to share more perspectives for this enriching conversation after the break.